who we're here with, you can ask me. How about now?
Let me check.
I see people.
Yeah, looks like we're in.
Okay,
So we're
great.
good.
Okay, wait. Did I break something? No, I didn't. Well, we don't know yet.
Something broke us.
Yeah, I am broken, but put 866. I'm sorry. Talk to JP for a second.
Hi, y'all.
Ask him anything.
Yes, Manny. I think we got it. Hi.
Okay.
Awesome.
How about now? You see JP okay? And are we on the upside? Like when we bring him on, is he still going to be below?
Let's find out. Let's see how this works.
All right, guys. So I think you know who we are, but just in case. Hello, this is Between Two Nerds. We are an offshoot of nerdsvote.com, your source for voter registration and information, especially for nerds. I'm Courtenay Taylor.
And I'm JP Karliak.
And this is Between Two Nerds. Our guest today, I'm super excited because he does something that we haven't really talked about on the show. He has the very, very cool job, and we'll decide if it's motion capture or performance capture when he comes on. But let me just make sure he's on before I introduce him.
I did see him.
Oh, sweet God. Is
he on the laptop?
I don't know.
Does it say he's unavailable to connect?
Noshir, if you're on your laptop, you have to be on a phone or an iPad.
I don't think an iPad even works.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Phone or nothing.
It's phone or nothing, I think. So.
Otherwise, you can't join the chat. Thank you, Tunehead. We enjoyed our interview with Kevin Conroy as well.
He was so awesome, right?
Yeah.
Who knew? I mean, I guess you guys knew, but I had never had a conversation with him, so I was stoked. And
yeah.
He's got such a big heart as well as that great voice, so that was super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So the campaign begins to get him to run for office. So.
Yes! Wouldn't that be cool? President Batman. What? That's what we'd have to call him.
Even council member Batman would be.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to wait 4 years. So yes, council member, Assemblyman Batman. I like how this is going. Our guest is changing, not close, to the campaign. Well, possibly close. I mean, just so you know, so you guys know us, we know you. We're Between Two Nerds, Nerds Vote. The pinned comment today is 866 our vote. And if you're paying attention out there, you're probably realizing that there are quite a few issues with voting right now. Long lines, some mysterious boxes that may or may not be official. Hi, Mona. Make sure that you have 866 our vote in your phone. Take out your phones, put it in right now. If you run into any trouble with voting, if people try and stop you from getting in line before the ballot box, before your polling place closes,
if people try to get you out of line after your polling place closes, because if you're in line, you still get to vote.
Exactly, if you're in line. So make sure if you have any trouble that you have 866 our vote in your phone. And I'm going to say so many places are allowing early voting this year. I would say freaking go and early vote if you can, because that way if you run into any trouble, you have time to solve it. and it's really, really important. So, hi, Karume. So that's our pinned comment for this week. It's so important, and it's so exciting to just see. And we're going to bring our guest on in just a second, but I just have to say, and I know that JP agrees with me. Oh my God, so many people voting, so many people registered, like breaking records, like 2 million more people registered in Texas over 2016, like 40 times the amount of early voters in Virginia, was it? Not Virginia.
I think so, yeah.
Was it Virginia? Just amazing. So I am so thrilled that if you guys are in any states where it looks like people are having trouble, it's so great of you guys to be sharing stuff on the internet. I've had tweets and stuff going out with people saying like, hey, this polling place is not, there's no line, so come now. And it's just sharing information. So fantastic. So thank you guys so much for paying attention, being prepared, and sharing the information. So now we're going to bring on somebody who does this awesome job that we haven't really had a chance to talk about. You will know him from Star Wars Squadrons with yours truly and his truly, and also Red Dead Redemption 2, little game nobody's ever heard of, no big deal, and Sekiro. And so we're going to bring on Noshir Dalal, who is mocap, PCAP extraordinaire. I'm going to put him on right freaking now because he's on his phone. Here it comes. It's happening. I feel so calm. Yes! Hello, look at your little baby face. Did you shave for us? Did you shave for us?
Oh, well, for sure. I definitely shave for you guys. I also have, well, here, you can see it for yourself. Give me 1 second. I've got a PCAP for rather face cap session tomorrow.
Ooh.
Helps for me to shave the day before, and that way in the morning I can just, and I'm good to go. So
that's so awesome.
It's going to be a bonkers day tomorrow.
You guys are seeing how the sausage is made right now. This is how it's done now that we are in COVID. And this is how it's done. And we are all making it happen from the comfort of our homes.
Yeah, I'm super appreciative of all the people keeping us safe.
Yes. And people who are helping us limp our way through these sessions. I don't know how you're doing it with like face cam stuff, because I get flop sweats just from like Source Connect.
Oh,
I can't.
Yeah, it's totally bonkers. And I mean, I'm like constantly like running into stuff, and it's a whole, this booth is not big. So as long as I don't break anything, I think I'm okay. So I have a reputation for breaking stuff on mocap sets. So hopefully that trend does not continue in my own booth.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll definitely, I'll have to check in with some of our mutual friends and find out what exactly is broken.
Oh, I'm sure Jamie will tell you war stories for sure.
Well, I already heard that you were super excited and felt great about coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That was,
for sure.
That was the word on the streets. So,
Happy to have you.
So guys,
oh, thanks so much for having me, guys. This is awesome.
Oh, we are so thrilled to have you for many, many reasons. And sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so sorry if we end up having a little bit of crosstalk. But so
good.
This is a great way to jump off. How are you dealing with COVID at home and for work?
Well, I guess I'll start with for work. Obviously, right as COVID hit and like kind of lockdown happened, all motion capture and performance capture stuff just kind of stopped. There was no real safe way to do it. So that side of my work was gone. But luckily, we had gotten this booth set up like 7 months before COVID happened, just so that we could do more work from home. And that has been such a godsend for us, you know. We're feeling very fortunate. So we've been we've been busy, and it's probably for me as an actor been really good, if only because um, in motion capture I do tend to do a lot of physical stuff. They'll bring me in if I'm not doing full PCAP. If I'm doing mocap, then it's like, I'm doing fights and taking wrecks and doing gun work and stuff like that. And the fact that I couldn't do that for 4 or 5 months also allowed studios to see me as purely an actor, instead of as an actor who likes to get beat up on a regular occasion. So, so that's been really great. That's been really great. As far as life at home, my wife likes to stress bake, and I will eat anything set in front of me. So I've probably gained like 50 pounds, but I'm fat and happy, so I got no complaints about it whatsoever.
And that's the great thing. You're just doing face caps, so as long as you can get like out of this area
as
here,
that's all I need, I'm good to go.
You can be a little tomato from the neck down. Just keep this looking
That's
glorious.
right.
And yeah.
It really does look like a sausage now. Oof, it's bad.
I highly doubt that. Nobody that makes a living wearing those horrendous suits can truly ever relax, I feel like. If you guys don't know, and you could probably tell our viewers a little bit, explain the difference between motion capture and performance capture, and maybe just wax eloquent about your love of those amazing suits that are so flattering and in the most amazing colors.
Yeah, anyone who says that black is slimming has clearly never worn a mocap suit ever. That is the most.
Well, usually they have those patches of like yellow at your crotch and like on your butt cheeks, and you're like, why?
Yeah. There's a suit. I think Yuri usually wears it. That's got like green, yellow, and like some other strange color, just stripes all across the crotch. And so we got to calling him Juicy Fruit, I think, because like it looked like a juicy fruit wrapper. It was not a good look for anybody, but if anyone can pull it off, it's Yuri. So
note to self. Now all of a sudden Yuri's going to be like, why is everyone on my Twitter feed calling me Juicy Fruit?
No, that's going to stick.
Yeah, it's going to stick like
Yuri, that's
a stick of Juicy Fruit, which is not very well.
I take it back.
No, it is. It's like one of those things where like you hear like about those, I don't know, when I was in college, there was like a sorority that got in trouble for like circling all the places that their pledges had to lose weight. And it's literally like those women got together and made the suit. So they're like, right where your saddlebags would be, we're going to put those on and we're going to make them neon orange. And then maybe just a stripe around your belly. And yeah, anything that's going to make your butt look flat, your crotch look flat.
Yeah.
You've got to really stay strong with your body piece.
Yeah, and it doesn't help at all that for those of you who don't know like how a mocap suit works, you have to wear this top, and then you're basically velcroed into your pants, and you're not just like velcroed into your pants. The goal is to like hitch your pants up pretty much as high as they'll go. It's super unflattering and not the most comfortable thing you've ever worn, but I guess you get used to it after a while. So.
And then they throw you out on the volume, which is like the stage, and they also are like, okay, so you're going to be out here for 4 or 5 hours running around, but you're velcroed into the suit, and the worst thing you can do is need to go to the bathroom in the suit. So you're literally like, like no water, and then you're like, I'm so thirsty, but I either die of thirst or I pee. Which one's worse?
Well, I mean, I think the ladies have it much, much, much worse than the guys. They're building flies into the mocap suits for the pants. So we are very lucky. For the ladies, it is not fun. And of course, that also means that so anytime you like take down your pants or take off your shirt or even just zip it and unzip it, right, and put it back together, the markers move. So what'll happen is if your markers have strayed very far from where they were originally, your marker data, the trackers that kind of signify your person, get all thrown off. And so for guys, like if you have to pee, it's not a problem. You use the fly and everything's good. But if for any reason you have to do a number 2, I mean, the pants are coming off. So any guy who comes in and is like, I guess I need a re-rom, it's like everyone knows what you had to do. So there's no secrets in mocap. It's just, there's not much glamorous about it. You know what I mean?
So tell us what the difference is between performance capture and motion capture, because they get used pretty interchangeably, and I know there are some differences. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, with where things are going, I don't even know. I guess for semantic purposes, you can just discriminate between the two. The way I'd always looked at it was performance capture was you're in the suit, usually wearing an HMC, which is a helmet-mounted camera, right? And the HMC tracks, because it has microphones on it, it tracks your voice and your facial gestures and everything. So that's what's also known as full performance capture. Whereas mocap or motion capture was usually you're wearing a soft cap, like a beanie. So they're not tracking your facial expressions, though oftentimes they'll put microphones on you. And so they are capturing your voice, but it's really mostly about the physicality of your movement. I guess the only thing I'll say about that is I don't ever want the amazingly talented folks I work with who do motion capture to ever be seen as doing anything less performance-wise than someone doing full performance capture, because especially in games, right? It's not just about everything going on here, like how your character carries themselves and how they walk, how they move, how they shift their weight, how they throw that punch and how they take that hit. You're telling so much story, even if you never speak, you know? And so it's all acting at the end of the day. And when they bring in stunt guys for stunt days in mocap, they're still bringing in stunt professionals who are tremendous actors, because if all you can do is like swing and take wrecks, that's actually a very, very small part of what they're doing in there, you know? You look at the guys who do the motion capture, like I'll do motion capture for Rhino, or Seth and Ross will do motion capture for Spider-Man, and there's so much about those characters that you can see even just in the way they stand up or like get out of a chair. You know, it really makes a difference, and I think that part of the art is really cool.
Absolutely. And if there's any aspiring voice actors, stage, theater, mocap, pay attention in those animal movement classes. Because if I could go back to theater school, the two classes I hated the most were movement and voice and speech.
Wow, that's crazy.
And now all I want to do is go back and be a frickin' cheetah.
That's so funny.
And learn diphthongs.
I had the pleasure of coming in as a guest teacher at NYU to kind of help one of my mentors teach a movement class on animals. And it's so cool to see, like, I never went to grad school, so, and I don't have a degree in theater or anything. So to see students who, like, from a young age were completely immersed in this, it was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. They're so good. They're so good.
So how did you get into this then? And guys, I know that people are going to want to ask Noshir questions. Throw them in the question box. I will check it from time to time, and we will try and answer your questions. But hopefully, we'll get to some of them just naturally through the interview. So go on, darling.
That's a really originally. I mean, you couldn't pay me to get on a stage or talk out loud. Like, I took a public speaking class in high school and it almost killed me. It was awful. And
it's the number one scariest thing to
do. Yeah. And for good reason. I am definitely in that camp. So I was planning on being a doctor. I ended up going to Cornell University and studying all kinds of wacky stuff. And oh my God, this is such a long meandering story. Long story short, I got really, really sick, almost died, ended up having to go home. They gave me some pretty scary ultimatums, and I really didn't know what to do. And my Kung Fu master, actually, Master Joe Salamone, I was speaking to him because I was kind of desperate, and I didn't really know what to do. My health was in really bad shape, and they were talking about like removing my spleen and all kinds of heinous stuff without any real good reason for it. They just knew that something was really wrong with me. And he told me, because at the time I was a very angry guy. Like, I'd walk around and like get in fights on a regular basis, and was just generally like looking to I was in a misguided way, I guess, trying to prove my worth, right? Because I felt worthless. And my teacher told me, Noshir, you're all fire and no water. You do everything like 110%, but you don't know anything about yourself as a person. Why don't you try like poetry or an acting class? And I was like, that is the stupidest advice I have ever heard. Like, I wanted you to give me some like crazy, special Eastern medicine or something that was going to help me. And this is the guidance you give me. I was actually really upset. But I was pretty desperate, and I ended up enrolling at the University of Rochester, which was close to my home and close to the hospital I had to go to. And a gentleman there, Nigel Meister, was running the theater program. I hated it. I just hated it. And he knew I hated it, but I think he also knew that I needed help. And he basically was like, you're going to audition for this play, and if you don't, like, I'm not going to pass you, essentially. And I was like, I'm a super nerd. Like, I need that GPA. And so I auditioned. I got into this play that was Dürrenmatt's The Visit, Friedrich Dürrenmatt's The Visit. And I'm not going to pretend I was good. I played the priest, but it was my first experience with like being in a room with a whole bunch of people who don't know each other, and we're all having this like kind of shared community experience. And I'd never been a part of something like that ever before. And it made me incredibly uncomfortable. But I guess some part of me knew it was uncomfortable in a way that was actually really good for me. And I just started acting from there, and ended up doing a couple more plays, and then going to the Hangar Theater Lab Company, which led me to New York. I did mostly theater at the Classical Theater of Harlem in New York, and then managed to do Lincoln Center, went on a tour, ended up in Hollywood, did TV and film. Because of my martial arts and stuff, I could do some stunts, so I got brought on to do a guest star role that had a lot of combat in it. And the stunt coordinator was like, do you want to be a stunt guy? And I was like, no, I know what stunt guys do. Like, I can't do that. I'm not that cool. But I said, but I am really interested in motion capture, because I've always been a gamer, and I'd seen all these games coming out that had amazing motion capture performances in them. And he introduced me to a gentleman named Dan Southworth, who brought me onto the Sony stage for The Order 1886, which was the first project I ever worked on. And I spent 9 hours getting my butt kicked by Dan and and Anthony Nanakompanam, another amazing mover and stunt fighter. And they kind of taught me the ropes. I ended up doing a lot of action motion capture for Sony for a long time. And kind of that route took me eventually to voiceover, which is totally backwards, I know, from what a lot of people do. And it was interesting because it's only in probably the last handful of years that a lot of the folks that I've done mocap with for a long time are like, oh, wait, have you started taking acting classes? Like, you know, and it's like, no, I'm not a stunt guy. Like, that's never been my bag. I'm an actor. I have, you know, martial arts and weapons training, which lets me
I went on a
move.
national
But
tour, good sir.
I was on Broadway, damn it. Yeah, but it was, you know, it's so it's interesting kind of the road that I've taken to get here. It's been a really long and winding road, but I'm so grateful for the journey, you know.
So when did you decide you liked it? Was it before or after the national tour and Broadway?
Well, it was actually much sooner. I was really sick when I was at University of Rochester trying to finish up my degree, and so I did the visit, and then I ended up doing 6 characters, and then ended up doing Hamlet. And during 6 characters, my blood cell count had dropped to a point where it was pretty bad. And then I remember the last day doing 6 characters, I was playing a really awful character. Like he makes a lot of mistakes. He does some pretty horrible stuff, and in his cowardice really hurts the ones he loves. And I couldn't, like, I wasn't an actor, so like I couldn't figure, like, I hated this man, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to do that. It made me feel gross to be that kind of person. And the director at the time, Michael Barakiva, told me, but, you know, Noshir, if you're going to be an actor, you have to learn to love this guy. You have to find the love in him. And I didn't understand. And then the last day of performance, I was taking off my makeup and looked in the mirror and kind of realized I was looking at a very flawed, very troubled friend who I was never going to see again. And it actually made me incredibly sad. And a couple of days after, I got a call from the hospital, and they were like, "Hey, we need you to come in right away." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I was sure they were going to tell me, like, they got to take out my spleen or whatever heinous, awful thing. And they kind of sat me down, and they were like, "So over the last handful of months, your blood cell count has started doing this. So if you've changed your nutrition or something in your lifestyle has changed, just keep doing what you're doing, you know." And because you're not cured because we never cured you. We never even really knew what was wrong with you. And the only thing I'd done was acting, you know, and maybe starting to understand that you don't need to be perfect. And there are going to be parts of every person that they don't like, but finding the good in others, and maybe most importantly in yourself, you know. I think I literally hated myself almost to death. So that was quite a journey for me. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That is.
Yeah.
If you think
My
about
actor friends are always like, "Acting saved your life." Sorry, what'd you say, Tiffany?
you know, since this is Nerds Vote, you know, when you think about where we're at as a country, and, like, you know, there's a lot of division and a lot of feeling a certain type of way about somebody that we might not know or we might not understand fully. We just know that they subscribe to a certain ideology or party or something like that, and we just rubber stamp them. Like, how do you, and maybe you don't, because I don't know if I figured this out myself, but, like, how do you navigate the, you know, trying not to judge people specifically just by the label they wear?
Oh man, that's such a great question. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm good at it. But what I do know is I've come to understand, like, actually a really great example of this is Vargo Gray from Star Wars Squadrons, right? He's a pilot and a captain of a squadron fighting for the Empire. And they released this trailer, and people were actually really upset a lot of people, because they're like, why are we celebrating the bad guys? You know, he's a bad guy. He's an Imperial, and the Imperials are bad people. And it made me think, you know, because obviously when I'm playing Varco Gray, I'm not thinking of myself as a bad person. I think Varco is a man who loves his friends and has watched a lot of people die in a war that maybe he doesn't fully understand, but like he's kind of so entrenched in his way of thinking, because I think for him to do otherwise may be to admit that he's been wrong, and that maybe being wrong would come at great cost for him. You know what I mean? It would actually, like, to admit that maybe he'd been fighting for the wrong cause, maybe more than he could bear. And I think a lot of times about people who have a very different view from me, have best friends, and to the people close to them, they're good people, you know? And I think we have to remember that I think it's easy to paint someone as being on the other side and therefore different and wrong. But the vast majority of the time, there's so much more that we share in common than there is that pushes us apart. I'm not saying that we're all going to like hold hands and like go skipping into the sunset or anything like that. But wouldn't that be nice? But I do think that, yeah. But if we give each other maybe a little bit of a chance to try to better understand one another, even if we don't agree with each other, maybe we could at least learn to better respect one another. And I think that would go a long way, because then you can find middle ground, you know, and it doesn't need to be this kind of violently dramatic shift of either, you know, it doesn't have to be a light switch on or off. It can have shades of gray, you know. Now there are certain policies that I feel very strongly about. I'm sorry, what?
It can have a dimmer, a rheostat.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. And that's not to say that, like, I feel very strongly on some subjects that I'm not going to yield on, you know. I've thought them through, and I think they line up with my moral sense of what's right and wrong. But I also have to acknowledge that the exact same thing is happening for someone on the other side, more often than not. You know, there's a lot of leveraging for personal gain happening, and I think if we can all be educated, we can help use our voting power to kind of circumvent those kinds of actions. And that's where I think folks like you guys and the work you're doing to make those resources available to us so that we can make informed decisions, that's so important. Now more than ever, I think we're learning the value of knowledge and the danger of ignorance, you know.
And how important it is, just to kind of circle back around, that, you know, having conversations with people, having real conversations with people is the only way that we will find that middle ground, because you can make up a lot of things in your head if you don't know why someone is doing or feeling or speaking a certain way. And so, you know, most of the time, you know, if I have I'm pretty passionate about gun control because I've lost several friends to gun violence. Mm-hmm. And once that gets put in the mix, or if I tell people, you know, hey, my family were welfare recipients when I was young, and this is who I turned into, then people can say, they can personalize these things and say, oh, you know, or, hey, you know, this is my best friend, he's gay. Once you start to put faces to these, then it's not just, you know, quotations. It's not just this kind of like, oh, this is just how everybody is on that side. Then you start to think about things not just necessarily on like party lines, but like, who's the best person for the job and why? and
Yes.
and where can we come together? Because I think we're seeing, especially in these times, that being completely rigid is only driving us further apart, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of solution in sight until we start having thoughtful people on all sides sit down together and try and figure out where we're going to go. And so that can only be done when we encourage people to look at who they're voting for, and who's, why they're voting, not to just kind of blindly go down the ticket, but to say like, hey, we've really been encouraging, actually, JP just put together a really fantastic PSA about ballot parties in partnership. We're in partnership with Ballot Ready and Voters Study Party.
Voting study parties.
Thank you. And it's about really like, get together with friends. And we did it with Critical Role a couple of years ago. And it was so great because you sit down and you just divvy up all of the work and everybody takes a little bite of it. And then you come back to the table and you don't have to reach consensus. You just have to say, hey, this is what I learned, check it out. And then everybody has more information and they can decide what's right with their moral compass. And that's just the important thing. I think once we start doing that, we'll actually find that we have so much more in common than we are different.
Yeah.
So,
that's great. Oh man, I love it.
I want to ask, so you grew up in New York?
Yeah, I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, ended up growing up most of my life in Rochester, New York, and then spent about 10 years in New York City before I came out to Hollywood. Yeah.
And do you come from a family of people who is like voting a thing in your family? Or is it just kind of something like, we got, somebody was saying on Twitter that like they brought their family together and like they have like a dinner, and I thought this was like the best idea. Like it's almost like they have like a Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone goes and votes, and then they come back and they kind of talk and celebrate and be like, attaboy, attagirl, job well done.
That's awesome. Well, my family, so I'm half Japanese and half Parsi. So my mom is from Japan and my dad is from India. And so at least for the earlier part of my life, voting wasn't even something we could do. My father is now a citizen. And I think he felt a civil obligation, in addition to the benefits of being an American citizen. It comes with responsibilities, you know what I mean? It is interesting though. I think I'll have talks sometimes with members of my family where I have to stress that, like, because you'll hear like, I mean, I don't even know why I bother, because like it doesn't really, like, what does my vote matter? And it's like, oh man, like first of all, like, even if it's just for yourself and your own sense of agency, learning to take responsibility for yourself, self-ownership, and speaking your mind, I think is actually a super important thing for anybody to be doing. But then also, inaction is a choice, right? You are choosing to disengage. And then whatever happens, as far as I'm concerned, at least, you have no right to complain. You can't complain about anything because you never stepped onto the field and gave it any effort, so I think some of those talks with some members of my family have been really hard, but the good news is I think they've come around to the idea that like it really is important. And so especially this election, like everyone I know, and like my family is voting and my friends are voting, folks who for whatever reason, couldn't be bothered or didn't feel it mattered, are now finding that it's really important to speak their piece. And I think that's so great. I think that's so great.
Shaquille O'Neal is voting for the first time in a presidential election,
It's
guys.
awesome.
Everybody's doing it. And there's no shame in, you know, changing your behavior. There are a lot of people who, I mean, people that you would be really surprised who have never voted before, and for various reasons. But like, you can get on the field, like he says, right now. You know, you can, as long as your registration deadline hasn't passed, and then, but you can get on the field right now, and you can start participating both in local and state and federal elections. It's so important. And just understand that, you know, your vote is there's a bigger piece of the pie at a federal level. And so it takes time, and it's not like you just cast a vote and things change. It takes time to move the needle. But, you know, it is important to have agency. This is our country. And, you know, whether you grew up here or you came here and got your citizenship, this is your country. It's our country, and we need to take care of it. You know, we need to take care of it and start being engaged, because I think, you know, people are really starting to realize what set it and forget it politics has done, and people need accountability all the way up the food chain. And you can't sleep on it. So it's great to have those conversations.
It feels a lot like oh, sorry, I think Instagram just freaked out for a second. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I do feel that political action it's very similar to, well, and kind of hand in hand with environmental action now, right? Like, it's also our children and our grandchildren will be the ones that answer, you know, that have to pay the bill essentially for what we do now. So looking out for those who come after us and hopefully trying to set the best path we can for them is so important, you know. I think if more folks took the time to think about it that way, like a lot of things that sure may not actually directly affect me in the now, but that doesn't mean it's not going to have incredibly powerful effects on folks down the line, you know, and we owe it to them, I think, to speak up. So.
And speaking of speaking up, if you are just joining us and you don't know what the heck we're doing here, this is Between Two Nerds. We're an offshoot of nerdsvote.com. I'm Courtenay Taylor. This is
Karliak.
And our guest is
Noshir Dalal.
And we are chatting a little bit about motion capture, performance capture, acting, voting. We have our pinned comment is, please make sure that you are taking advantage of our the early voting that is afforded to so many states right now. And also, please put 866 Our Vote in your phone, because if you go to the polls and something goes wrong, or if you have any questions at all, you can 100% just use that, call them, and they will hook you up with answers. And if you have questions right now, you can also chat with Ivy, who is our social media director. She is in the chat somewhere in there. Let me touch the carrot. Now I don't know how to get the picture away. Hold on. Okay, there. So you can ask questions here. Someone did ask a question, and I just want to throw this up. This is a quickie little question, but did you do mocap for Red Dead Redemption 2?
Yeah, so that was full performance capture. So we were in the mocap suits. We had HMCs, the helmet mounted cameras, and then microphones. So that was body, face, and voice. And then afterwards, there was a lot of voiceover added to that as well. So
that is a lot of moving parts. The only thing that I have ever done that was harder than all of that is when you have to try and kiss someone, doing with the face.
Oh,
that's really hard.
Yeah.
That's how, I mean.
Yeah. In HMC, Not so great. Not so great.
How? And the clinking and the grabbing of Velcro and the sorry.
Another.
It's really it's what lovemaking is all about, guys.
And another one that I had that was really challenging, because it totally depends on the technology, but a lot of times with that HMC, that helmet mounted camera, the software that runs it is basically taking landmarks of your face and using that to create a high fidelity avatar, right? That'll do all these gestures that you're doing. But in order to do that, it needs an uninterrupted image. So for example, if you pick your nose or put your hand on your face or something and you interrupt the camera, you can wreck that. And I had to do PCAP for a character who smoked, but I couldn't put a cigarette like in my mouth. So they had like a prop cigarette, like a doobie basically, like wrapped with like double-sided tape. And so the bar for the HMC comes out like yay. And they were like, so just, put it up to the bar as if you're smoking, and then like that'll be your mouth. Do you know how weird that is? I was like, it was like the most bizarre, and like, it would like, I'd miss the bar and drop my cigarette and everything. It was pretty awful.
It's like you're smoking, but you're a horse from Equus.
Yes, there you go. Oh, Equus. Yeah, it's intense.
So I'm assuming, because you sort of alluded to environmental stuff, that might be something that you are. We like to ask people if they have any kind of groups that they support, causes, things like that, because we're winding up to our big question, which is, when you go to the polls, who are you voting for? And when we say that, we don't mean what party are you voting for necessarily, but who are you wanting this vote of yours to help out? What do you want to change for the better? And do you have things that you support year round as well to kind of tie into that?
Man. Well, for sure, I do feel that, we only have one Earth, and it's in trouble, and I think a lot of big corporations are getting away with a lot of stuff that's incredibly harmful, that isn't going to change unless we do a couple things. For sure, changing policy is a huge part of that, but also changing where we put our money. Because even if, for example, Amazon is easy, right, or whatever that company may be, is that necessarily do you want to support that endeavor? And I think even just a little bit of cognizance about stuff like that can have a huge impact if that's kind of something you carry with you, day in, day out. So
where do you buy your gas, y'all?
Yeah. Yep. It makes a difference.
Things like that. So changing environmental policy, for sure. It's a real good one. Is there, are there any sort of groups that you support during the year that I have a friend who is, who works for Doctors Without Borders. So I'm also really concerned with, supporting how people can get PPE in other countries and also here because they're doing work here, things like that. If there's international things like that, just anything that, any like Actors Fund.
Well, I know like the Nature Conservancy is a big one. And like there's also, and this is one I haven't, because I'm trying to, it's interesting. I feel like unlike almost any other profession, at least as we become more successful, and my career is very much, I'm very new to all this, and kind of looking up to a lot of actors such as yourselves, and a lot of the other folks I've had the pleasure of sharing the volume with, or working with, and kind of watching the ways that, because now that people at least kind of know who I am in a weird way, which I still don't like, that's super weird for me. Like, but it means that my actions and my words have weight that they didn't have before. I'm no longer just responsible purely for myself, because for good or for bad, what I say and what I do can influence others, which is a weird thing. So I've been trying to put together some fundraisers and whatnot to support folks who could really use it. Obviously, Black Lives Matter is a big one for me, and also hopefully some stuff coming up to help out the amazing heroes that are fighting the wildfires we have racing up the West Coast. I trained as an EMT back when I thought I was going to be a doctor, and it's given me such an appreciation for the incredibly hard work that any first responder has to do. So anything we can do to support them, I'm all for. And that's another one of those things where, like, masks and all this other stuff, I understand that for some people it's inconvenient or whatever, but also, you have to understand, I have friends who are doctors, I have friends who are EMTs and firefighters who are literally living in their garages because they can't put their children at risk, their newborn kids. And they're doing that for you, they're doing that so that they can serve you. And if you can't appreciate that level of sacrifice and make the small action of putting on a mask, I don't know what to say, because I feel that's just a base level of empathy and appreciation that anyone is capable of if they give it a little bit of thought. Those people are fighting brutally hard for us, so
yeah
yeah.
Amen to that. That's incredible. And if there's any way that we can help you in your endeavors to, we'd love to support individually and whatever we can do. So we generally, of course, Instagram likes to cut us off right about now. So before I start screaming about 2 minutes left, just a couple things. One more time, guys, where is it? 866-hour vote. Please put it in your phone and make sure that you have that. And please take advantage of the early voting in your state. If you have other questions, you can 100% check out nerdsvote.com. If you have, you should be following Noshir if you want to say your handles on things, please do, so that we can find you.
Sure, it's just Noshir Dalal. There aren't very many of people with my name, so it's pretty easy.
Noshir. It goes right there.
There you go.
So we usually sign off. If you have a favorite character that you've done, we would love to hear, just signing us off, encouraging everyone to vote in that character. But you can also just do it as Noshir. Or you could do it as the character that you hated in the play. Whichever.
Well, why don't I do this then? There's a line that Charles Smith has that comes from a very different context, but I think it works very well here. If anyone were to ask, like, well, what business is it of yours, voting and all this stuff, I would say, it's that business of mine! And that's how I would end it.
There it is.
And the crowd goes wild. That's awesome. Noshir, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, buddy. This is awesome.
And
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for educating us in the ways of the Dayglow black teeny suit.
The ways of the T-pose.
Yes, the ways of the T-pose. We really appreciate it, and thank you for shining such a light both on the volume and all the stuff that you do, but also that's great stuff about the first responders. It's really powerful stuff. So thank you.
The honor's been mine. Thank you so much.
Wear a mask, guys, and
yes.
We will see you on Thursday. We have a guest coming up at 2 p.m. JP, would you like to do the honors?
We have Courtenay. Actor is also on Voyage to the Stars, an amazing sci-fi tip-top show. So we are super excited to have you seconds.
So please come back. Join us at 2 p.m. on Thursday. Thank you so much, Noshir. It was a pleasure. And make sure that you guys vote and wear a mask.
You're amazing. I love you guys. Thanks so much.
Mwah! See you soon. Bye.
Bye.